In this video, we're going to look at how to set up some basic sounds using just your guitar and your amplifier. They're simple sounds, so it doesn't matter what your setup is, you should be able to get close to these sounds. We'll start with a clean sound. So for a tone like that, we've set our gain to midway on a clean channel. Obviously it's got to be a clean channel, it's a clean sound. The gain you can alter anywhere between sort of lowish, sort of 2 or 3, up to sort of 3/4. Basically you don't want to engage too much crunch for this, so we'll keep it roughly midway. That's perfect for us. The volume you can do to taste. The volume shouldn't have too much effect on the sound, so if you turn it up, it's just to affect the volume and not to affect the actual tone. Should sound the same however you adjust it. Now the EQ here we've set, it's actually a very, very simple setup, all just around slightly above midway really, so bass, mid and treble just slightly above midway. It's a really simple sound, really just letting the sound of the guitar come through. Now you can adjust that to get a jazzier sound, so all you'd need to do would be to adjust the treble control. So down to a really, really low level will give you a warm sound. You may want to tweak the mid-range a little if you like, and even perhaps raise the bass, but most important is just to go down to the treble sound. Now most important for a jazz sound is that you engage the neck pickup on your guitar, and let's have a listen. Much warmer sound, ideally suited to jazz. To set up a British style blues rock sound, you're going to need to use an overdrive channel on your amp. Now this amp has a channel select switch just here to do the job. Here's how it sounds. So, in terms of the settings, we've got the gain set fairly low. So we're just at around number 2 or 3 on there. You may need to adjust this depending on how your amp sounds. You may need to go a little higher or even a little lower. But the main thing with this sound is that the gain is actually surprisingly low. So err on the side of low gain rather than high. Use less than you think. The volume we've just set purely for volume purposes. It's not having very much effect on the tone, so we're really just using that to get it as loud or as soft as we want. In terms of the EQ, reasonably straightforward. We actually haven't gone too far away from the middle position settings. So the bass we've set right in the middle. You may find if you haven't got quite such a big meaty speaker cabinet as we're using, you might want to use a little bit more bass to get a similar tone. And in terms of middle and treble, we've just set those a little way past the middle, a little bit of extra boost there. And that'll help you cut through and give you a slightly more cutting sound. Use your own ears to decide that. You may find you'll be okay around the mid-range position, you may need a little less. It'll depend on how your amp sounds. Same with the treble, if you're not quite cutting through, you may find a little bit of extra treble helps. But don't worry, just have a listen to your own amp. It'll inevitably sound different from this amp. So tweak it using your own ears. Another setup you can use is a high gain sound. Several amps will have a specific channel for that, and this one's shown with the red light. So here's an example of how it sounds first of all. So it's quite as you can hear, a high gain sound, suitable for heavy metal and shred sounds really. We've set up what's known as a scooped sound. So this refers to the mid-range setting of the EQ. And you'll notice that it's quite a lot lower than the bass and treble. The idea is that starting with those as your reference position, starting midway, moving it right down low is called scooping out the mid-range, and that gives you your classic sort of thrash era distortion sound. Gain wise, notice the gain isn't actually that high. We're only at sort of 4 or 5, barely midway, but the reason for that is we're on a distortion channel on the amplifier. So the amp's already doing a lot of work, as you may even be able to hear a little bit of hiss coming through. That's because the amp's just, this channel's basically running very hot already. So back to the EQ then. We've got the middle set quite low for the classic scooped. Bass and treble are traditionally quite high on a scooped sound, but this amp is so well suited to heavy metal tones and shred sounds that we actually haven't had to boost the bass very much or the treble. You may find that your amp needs more gain, more bass, more treble. So you could say, if you could try say this setting, you could try a bit more gain, a bit more bass, a bit more treble, and a bit less rather on the middle setting. We don't really need that on this amp. It's perfectly suited to metal sounds, so we can get away with a lower gain and a slightly more easy setting on the bass, treble and middle. But do experiment with your own amplifier to find the optimum settings.